Guys, we're talking the 111 tonight. As always, let's get started by going over a few trades to get a baseline. Let's start with Superflex. 12-team Superflex, PPR, start 10. Are you going the 111 or Ramondre Stevenson?
Ooh, I'll go Ramondre Stevenson.
I'm going to go Ramondre, only thing because I think I could do better in a trade, or I could use him more than I could the 111 for in a package.
How about the 111 or Cam Akers?
Oh, 111.
Yeah, I'm taking 111. I actually like Cam Akers, but you should be able to get him at a cheaper cost than that.
How about the 111 or Treylon Burks?
You could take Burks on this one, but that's the exact range where if you wanted to re-roll for a receiver that you liked, saw something, scared of drafting one this year, don't think you can get a 24 first, I'm okay with Burks. I'm okay with the pick too.
How do I feel about rookie wide receivers that did poorly in their rookie seasons? I'm just trying to going through the Rolodex in my brain here. Hold on. No, I don't like them. I'm going to re-roll. Yeah, I'm going to take the 111 and try again.
All right, switching over to 1 QB. So a 10-team 1 QB start 8. So a shallow 1 QB. Are you going Calvin Ridley or the 111?
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, 1 QB, start 8, Calvin Ridley. The only value to the pick is finding another idiot to sell something better to you for the pick, and you can add a bunch of other stuff, and you say, here, Shane, I'm giving you a bunch of these shiny late firsts and seconds and future seconds, and give me a player better than Calvin Ridley. If that doesn't exist in your league, then I'll take Calvin Ridley.
I don't know many things, but never call a trade partner an idiot. Like, hey, idiot, take this deal. They generally do not like that. Unless, of course, their name is Idiot. But I've never actually met anyone by the name of Idiot.
Are you going the 111 or DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, 111.
Single QB?
You're single QB. You're a contender. You giving that 111 for Hopkins?
No, I'm not. It's close. I'll say that. It's close. It's very close. I look at DeAndre Hopkins in a similar tier as to Derrick Henry in Superflex. It's a 1-year bet. He's going to look really good on the Patriots or wherever, I guess. I don't know. He's getting released from what I understand. I'm going to take DeAndre here.
In a 1 QB, are you going Daniel Jones or the 111?
Oh, 111. Not paying that for a quarterback that's not top 8, top 9.
I don't recognize that as a legitimate question.
Let's go straight to the Superflex board. 101, you have Bijan, of course. 102, Anthony Richardson. 103, CJ Stroud. Bryce Young at 104. Jahmyr Gibbs at 105. Jackson Smith and Jigba at 106. Will Levis at 107. Quentin Johnston at 108. Addison at 109. And Zay Flowers at 110. So you're on the clock. 111. Who you going, Scott?
So this is a weird spot. This is definitely a tier break spot where I don't want to say it's an absolute tier break because some people may not like Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers, and they might like a running back such as Shane's favorite, which I have purposely held off my board just to show Shane how great a value I'm getting on him. It's between two players. It's between Zachary Charbonnet, which Shane, in that other league I'm in with him, he reached big time on Zach Charbonnet. Definitely took him way too early. And then the other one, apparently he is a good quarterback now that may go in the top 15, top 20, at least the first round. I think it's between Zach Charbonnet and Hendon Hooker. Knowing my league versus knowing what I probably need on my team, it's probably not Hendon Hooker. I'm not the team that is likely going into the season with absolute nothing at quarterback, and I'm desperate to hit on the next Jordan Love where I might have to wait 2+ years to ever get a start out of him. Or do I take the player I know I'm probably going to need? I know my team needs running backs. It's almost guaranteed, and I know I want to roster 50% of my spots as running backs. I'm going to lean taking Zach Charbonnet here. I may regret it, but you know what? If Shane is picking behind me, I have to definitely snipe him. So 111 is Zach Charbonnet, but it's very close. We may look back on this in 2 weeks and go, man, that Hendon Hooker, he's trending to go in the first round. If he's a first-round quarterback, you're not probably taking him behind a potential third-round running back.
Shane, let's take a peek at your board here. So 101, Bijan Robinson. 102, CJ Stroud. Bryce Young at 103. Anthony Richardson at 104. Then you had Gibbs at 105. JSN at 106. Will Levis, it's Levis, Shane, not Levi's, at 107. Charbonnet at 108. Flowers at 109, and Quentin Johnston, you finally decided you were going to take at 110. You're on the clock, 111. Who you go, man?
I can't believe I took Anthony Richardson at 104. I'm still in shock at that. I'm actually in on him today. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. But I think I'm going to go Devin Achane. Devin Achane is not how you say his name, but he is going to be a proxy for whoever the running back, who would that be, the running back for this class is? Be Zachary Evans. Certainly won't be Zachary Charbonnet. He would have been well off the board. I don't know what league Scott's drafting in. It must be a league with all fish that they're letting Zach Charbonnet fall to 111. That's just ridiculous. But yeah, I'm going to go Devin Achane. I don't know what he's going to be in the NFL. If he can get 15 opportunities a game, hopefully 50 to 60% of those being targets, I'll be happy with this pick. I have a feeling, though, that after the draft, that this pick would probably be Dalton Kincaid. But I'll go with Devin Achane right now.
There's a glaring hole in Shane's board. He is still not taken. Last I checked, one of the co-odds on favorite to be the first wide receiver off the board. Shane has not taken Jordan Addison yet. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I don't know if that was Shane blacked out for a pick or two.
was that a blackout? Did you
miss Jordan Addison? I'm just asking because I do think Jordan Addison as a first round receiver keeps some value insulation. I don't know if it's an Addison thing, but I know you don't like Quentin Johnston, but you've taken Quentin Johnston over Jordan Addison.
I feel more confident that Quentin Johnston is going to have better draft capital than Jordan Addison, but again, this is pre-draft. So if the draft comes and Jordan Addison ends up with first-round draft capital, then this is going to change my board significantly. Well, I won't go significantly, but there's going to be changes to this board. We know that, right? We know that something's going to happen that's going to change this board. One of those things that could change it is Jordan Addison going in the first round. I'm not convinced that he's going to, but we'll see.
Is part of the reason to take Quentin Johnston because he could be a live asset, as we've said in the past? It wouldn't take much for him to flash, or Shane said, make this unbelievable body catch and be able to sell him. Is that part of his appeal? Is that he can be flipped for more?
If he goes out there and puts up a George Pickens-ish type season, people are going to be talking about him like he's a wide receiver one, just because he's a big dude, he's fast. So that is part of it. I think I could trade him easier than I could Jordan Addison if they had the exact same rookie season.
See, I don't know about that because the new age NFL favors somebody like Jordan Addison. And looking at right now, just looking at mock draft database where those guys are going off the board, we got Jordan Addison going in the top 20. Not saying he's going to be good, but I do think that we're going to put Jordan Addison in the same category that we put guys like Jahan Dotson last year, or maybe even Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. Just depends on his draft capital. But here's the thing that I think is really weird is it used to be all about the analytics, right? But then you take away the names and you take away a lot of the, I guess you would just call it chatter from people on these prospects. Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Marvin Mims, Josh Down. These guys are just as good as the receivers last year, profile-wise. But then you start going, they're not as good, they're not as fast, they're not as big, you don't like their size. You start letting this creep in and forget that we're in a market right now where people are obsessed with receivers. So I guess it's, for me, I have a hard time sitting here saying, okay, I would take Brandon Ayuk or DJ Moore or Jerry Jeudy clearly over one of these picks when there's a first-round receiver on the board. Now, I get it if these guys fall in the draft to the mid-second, fine. But we even know that pick 35 in the second round is draft capital that warrants pretty much first-round rookie pick, especially in this market. So I'm not criticizing Shane's pick of Devon Achane, but that's a sub 185-pound running back that, even if he goes in the third round or the high third, early or late second round, what are the range of outcomes? I don't think you're going to be able to flip a guy like Devon Achane. I think he's very polarizing. That's a player people are going to go, yeah, he's off my board. He's too small. Like he has to be the outlier. It's almost like Will Levis. He's going to have to prove everybody wrong for a longer period of time than you probably want to wait. So it's just interesting. There's bias against these receivers when you look at their profiles and you go, why? It doesn't really make sense.
We are waiting for additional information points, right? Additional data points, the most important being draft capital. We have everything else we need: profiles, pro days, combine, all that good stuff, collegiate profile, athletic testing. Now we need that final piece of the puzzle, which is the NFL draft capital. And that's where when you're doing drafts before the NFL draft,
Good luck.
My prayers are with you, because that's where you're going. I think this is going to happen. And if this happens, then this pick is probably a good pick. And, this can clearly turn into a really bad pick, because if Devin DeChain just goes in the 4th round, it doesn't matter if it's the first pick in the 4th round. His profile is very different than if he goes in the 3rd round.
So I think you guys would probably want to kick this 111 to a 24 first as your first move, if possible, correct? Why wouldn't you want to wait until after the NFL draft? Because surely there's going to be a couple names that we haven't talked about in a while, maybe Sean Tucker or somebody like that. There's going to be a couple more guys that pop that are going to make this 111 look more like the 108, 109. So would you be in a big rush to buy a vet with this 111 as opposed to waiting until the NFL draft?
I mean, if you're playing in a multiple leagues, let's just give it 10 plus leagues, and you have a couple picks in this range, then I think you can probably shop and say, okay, what's the best player I can get for these picks? Because you're not just shopping in one league. One league, you might get in a league where it's like nobody really wants these picks. I think that's pretty common. You put your 112, 111, 110 on the block, and depending on the format, especially if it's just like a stock PPR with 1.5 tight end premium, there's no point per carry. There's no massive QB scoring. There's no massive tight end premium. People are kind of looking at the same board we are right now. It's running back, receiver. What am I really getting? Does anything stand out? Maybe Zach Charbonnet on my board. Maybe Jordan Addison on Shane's board. Maybe somebody's like, okay, I got to trade into that spot. You're not going to know that until the board is unfolding, though, when it's in front of you. You're going to know, okay, man, I know this one player keeps slipping and slipping and slipping. Someone's going to be willing to trade up, because remember, when you're doing a lot of these drafts, you're going to have ADP in front of you too. You're going to go, man, he's gone 107 or 108 in every league. Now he's there at the 111. I have some value on my hands. Right now, though, you put this pick on the block, a lot of people are going to go, not really sure about that pick. Now you're going to get a good player. I think both Shane and I can admit there's going to be a good profile here. But is it a profile someone else wants to pay for? And that's the conundrum with trying to sell these picks right now. People look at it and go, why would I give up anything that I already like, that I already have seen be somewhat productive? Why would I count it in any trade where I'm giving you anything of scarcity? So a quarterback or an elite tight end, like, sure, I'll give you Rashad Bateman. I'll give you Jerry Jeudy. I'll give you Marquise Brown. Like, I'll sell you that kind of player because it's earlier, like we're talking Treylon Burks. It's a reroll. You can tell yourself a story why you like Jordan Addison better than those names I just mentioned. But that's it. It's a 1-for-1 deal. I don't like making 1-for-1 deals in Dynasty unless it's a portfolio thing or it's a, this league, it just feels like I'd rather have the young players because of the economy of the league. But that's it. So it's really like, how do you gain value on these picks? At first, I was like, let me get rid of all these picks. I hate this range. Now I'm starting to come around like, man, if all I can get is Jerry Jeudy, maybe I'll take a guy like Jordan Addison. Maybe I'll take Quentin Johnston. There's a window where, worst case scenario, what do I end up with? The very worst case scenario, Shane. What's the worst case scenario picking a guy like Jordan Addison? Give me a comp.
Jerry Jeudy.
No, that's not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. Like Jalen Rager would be bad, right?
Jalen Rager is the worst case scenario of any. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, but yeah, Jalen Rager. Yeah.
Okay, so you got Jalen Rager.
Any Eagle wide receiver pre-Devonta Smith. Freddie
and I think as a Dynasty community, we're very good at avoiding the Jalen Ragers for the most part. Not 100%, but it's not like every other player is Jalen Rager. We let the profiles, and then we let the draft capital do the talking. And even if a guy just ends up being a solid receiver, that's not a bust. But sometimes it is a bust if you hold the player for 3 years, and then you go, yeah, this guy's not very good. Well, you missed the window. But the window doesn't exist with the Jerry Judys, the Brandon Ayuks. The windows are past there. You're going to get a window with some of these guys. Unless they bust, you're going to get a window of, okay, I have a better asset now than I did if I would have just taken all the risk out and made that trade. So I'm kind of leaning towards I want some of these picks more just because the market is fading them so hard. They're willing to sell them for something they've seen because they're scared of the Jalen Rager instead of embracing, wow, what if I hit on, the next CeeDee Lamb? Or what if I hit on the next Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle where no one thought they would go 3 times up in value, and all of a sudden I have that asset that I would have never had if I would have avoided the range altogether.
So let's say you see some value on the board and you want to move up into the 111 spot, like we were talking about. Would you give up the 203 and 208 for the 111?
You go both ways. If there's a player you see slipping, you can make the deal the other way. But if it's just completely agnostic this early, before the draft, before the landing spots, everything, I could see where you justified not doing a deal like that because you have no clue. Like I'd ask Shane right now, knowing nothing else, would you trade the 203 and the 208 for the 111?
Yeah, I'll move up there because I'm foolish enough to think that I'm going to know what player is going to be better between the 110 and the 23.
All right, so guys, let's do this. Let's hop over to a roster here and see what he should do with this 111. It's a 12-team Superflex PPR 2.0 tight end premium, start 11. It's a 6 point per passing touchdown league, 0.25 point per carry. So every carry you get 0.25. It's an orphan that he picked up in February. So looking at this roster, starting at the top, Kenny Pickett, Joe Mixon, Cam Akers, Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks, Hunter Renfrow at wide receiver. Tight end David Njoku. He has Khalil Herbert, Gallup, and Fant in the 3 flex spots right now. And he's got old Matt Ryan in the super flex. On the bench, we've got Curtis Samuel, Jerick McKinnon, Hunter Henry, Hayden Hurst, a couple dudes on the taxi squad. Pick-wise, he does have the 107. He's got the 111, 207, 208, 211, 212, a couple thirds. So he's got a lot of pieces in this draft. So looking at this squad and looking at the format, what are you doing with the 111 here?
Well, this team is, like Shane would call it, bad, very bad.
Yeah.
I probably am looking at this team saying it doesn't matter what happens over the next about 18 months because I'm drawing dead until then. So how do I accrue as much value as possible? He has some players that probably can go bye-bye. Matt Ryan, that's one of them. That's probably a couple other players you could just spam and get rid of for whatever picks you can get. Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel, Hayden Hurst, Jerick McKinnon. It's like there's a lot of work to be done here. So I'm probably either going with trying to split the asset. I'd be okay with that 203 and 208 deal. I'm also assuming he cannot get a 24 first with his 111. That's off the table. But if so, he needs quarterback. So I wouldn't hate getting a 24 first here and just doing a straight swap. I'd even throw in a 306 or something like that to get it done. Because this team, he needs his own first to tank to the bottom next year, and he probably needs to kick the can down the road one more year with the pick, and he's got plenty of later picks to just take shots on players and hope he can sell them during the season. But yeah, definitely it's I need to use the 111 to gain a better or more assets.
I'm looking at his roster, and yeah, it's pretty brutal. But it's an orphan, right? So that's
exactly
that's most of the time.
They always need some love,
right.
Tender love and care.
But it's got picks, so that's good. I would actually look at someone in the face and go, if I give you the 111 and 207, can I get a 24 first and kick the can for a 24 first? I'm fine with Scott's trade too, though, where you pick up, Jerry Jeudy and an extra pick because you do need to take shots too on this team.
Yeah, I think in this draft, he might be able to play around, be active on draft day. Be visible, be talking to all your league mates because 111 and then he's got a bunch of picks after that towards the back half of 207. If he plays it properly, he might be able to accrue some more 24 seconds just to help dig out of this this graveyard.
This would be a good team too if he can move the 107 and the 111 and go up like 2 spots. This is actually not a bad team to get Anthony Richardson on. He's going to need to take a shot at a quarterback. If he falls to 105 or 106, if he doesn't, you're probably not getting to like the 103 or 104. But if it's at the 104, that's where I'd start going, okay, can I trade up? Can I trade up and try to get Anthony Richardson? He's the perfect quarterback, I think, for this team because you really don't want to have a quarterback starting from day one. It's weird to say that, but he probably needs to get the guy that's going to help him tank his own pick to the 101 next year. Now you have Kenny Pickett, Anthony Richardson, and whoever the number 1 quarterback is next year. Now you're at least sitting with like a foundation potentially at quarterback. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole nother problem next year of, okay, cool, he has a bunch of picks, but guess what? He has no quarterbacks. And you hope you can use those picks on stuff that doesn't have to pay all of them to go get quarterbacks. So he's a couple years away, but I think that'd be the one consolidation or trade up. I don't love doing that in a start 11 with where his roster is. It's got to be for that quarterback, though. That's it. Everything else, just keep moving back and splitting your assets for more value.
All right, so Scott and Shane do a lot more in-depth review in their roster reviews. You'll see at the bottom of the screen a graphic showing how you can get one. Let's move over to the 1QB board and see what we had going over there from the previous show. So Scott, we're looking at your board. Bijan at 101, Gibbs at 102, JSN at 103, Quentin Johnston at 104, Jordan Addison at 105, Zay Flowers in the 6th spot, Jalen Hyatt at 107, and then you went 3 running backs, Charbonnet at 108, Spears at 109, and Miller at 110. What are you doing here at 111?
Now this, if we're talking tier breaks, this is really a tier break because there's probably going to be some other options to get decent draft capital. So you're going to have probably Josh Downs will be the next receiver. And then I really couldn't tell you who's going to be the next receiver off the board after that. And then if you're just following pure draft capital, A-Chain's going to be there. Then it's the wild, wild west at what running back's going to end up next because you do have Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Sean Tucker, Zach Evans, Chase Brown, Izzy Abanikanda, like all those names. You almost have to just go, this is who I like, and I'm taking a shot. And then once we get the draft capital and landing spots, people are going to clearly adjust. They're going to pick the ones that get higher draft capital and good spot. They're going to go all the way to the top. So doing this right now is tough. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think a lot of people in my spot would take A-Chain because they're just betting on the draft capital. But again, I don't think he's a player that I'm going to be able to turn around and go, you know what? I stole him because he was a late 2nd round pick in the NFL draft. Look at this asset I have. I'm going to aim a little higher. So I'm going to go Izzy Abanikanda at pick 111. Could be risky. Could be a guy that's running back 10 off the board. But after his pro day, looking at him, he's one of the few, I don't want to say freaks, but one of the guys that's legit 215 and fast. There's not a lot of those in this class. So I think him and Kendre Miller, if I have to pick pre-draft, those are the guys I'm picking like in this top 5 or 6. So I'll go with Abanikanda over Devon A-Chain, which might surprise a couple people. And I don't care if he gets drafted a round later. Because, again, I think it's a profile I'm going to be able to sell much easier, especially at running back.
No interest in Michael Mayer or a tight end at this spot?
Tight ends and quarterbacks in these leagues are basically just team need dependent only. If I desperately needed a quarterback and my quarterback's Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr and I've been trying forever to get a good one in 1QB, like this is probably the spot where you're going to have to take him if you want to secure. Same with a tight end. If I'm just platooning tight end and I'm starting Dawson Knox and Cole Kmet, fine. But I kind of look at Michael Mayer and I go, if he's not better than Dawson Knox or Cole Kmet, he falls in the same range. I'd rather draft a skill player that's not a tight end or quarterback, personally.
All right, so Shane, we're looking at your board, man. Bijan Robinson at 101, Gibbs at 102, JSN at 103, Charbonnet at 104, Addison in the 5th spot, Zay Flowers at 106, Quentin Johnston at 107, A-Chain at 108. Then you went Spears at 109. And on the last show, you went Josh Downs at 110. What are you doing tonight with the 111? We are including you in this show, Shane.
I appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's big deal for me.
Nobody watches this.
Yeah,
Nobody watches
I got to be honest. I hate my 1QB board. I like to redraft this whole thing, and I can't wait until the draft is over, or the NFL draft is over, and we can all just do a rookie draft after the first round. Live streaming that night. Look for that. Expect the super chats to be out big. Anyhow, I want to say Kendre Miller, but then I feel like I'm following Scott, right? So now I can't. So now I got to go Jalen Hyatt. I'm just looking at NFL mock draftable database. He's borderline first rounder. He's like 36 right now, right? If one team falls in love with him, he's going to have first round draft capital. I don't particularly like him, but I'm willing to invest in draft capital if it's a first round wide receiver.
So let's do some trades where we try to get up into that magical top 6. So would you give up the 111 and a 24 first for the 105? And this is super flex?
No. Top 4? Top 3, I definitely do it. Top 4, risky. Top 5, no. That's the line. Because now I'm getting potentially shut out at quarterback, and I just basically threw my extra first for
Gibbs or JSN.
JSN for Zay Flowers and a first. Like I'll take the bet on the 2 all day there.
Let me ask you this though: is that 111 earned? Is this an earned 111?
This is an earned 111.
To me, it doesn't matter. I'd rather use the 111 and my first in different ways, especially the 24 first. Why am I doing it for now?
let's just say that, I've perused the league. I've spammed the league. I've tried to get Amon-Ra St. Brown, Waddle, Devonta Smith, gentlemen of that nature, and just was shut out. And I'm going 111. I don't usually get the draft that high. I don't suspect that my next year pick will be particularly high as the 105 either. I could see making this deal if you think it's one of the few times you can move up and get an asset, like a high-end asset in the rookie draft.
Would you give up the 111, 112, and 206 for the 106?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's different because I already know where the picks are. They're defined. I'm not using my future first. I'm not trading away all the leverage, especially the future first. That's what bugs me the most. Because like to Shane's point, sure, he's tried to get those other guys. But have you really offered the 111 and the 24 first for Devonta Smith and been shut down? If so, I'd say your league probably overvalues that type of receiver in that range. And I'm not saying they're not good, but man, that's a lot to pay for a receiver when, we've talked about some deals where you can buy Brandon Ayuk for the 111 alone. So why would you throw in the extra first? I think that's what people are missing. You are getting Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, or Zay Flowers at that pick. So it's arrogance to say, I'm going to add a first and I'm just going to take JSN over those two pieces. I mean, that's just a bad bet. I'll just call a spade a spade. If you think you can thread that needle and you're going to pick the right guy and the other two assets are going to get washed away, then fine. But you give me a first-round receiver and a 24 first, you can have JSN all day.
So big swing up to the 102. In Superflex, are you giving the 111, 202, a 24 first, and a 24 second for the 103?
Well, hell yes.
Yep.
Absolutely smash.
What about in the 1 QB, the 111, 201, 206, 24 first, 24 second, and a 25 first for the 102? 1 QB start 8, 10 team.
I don't Scott's on mute. He's talking this whole time, just on mute. Let's see what he has to say.
My mute button is like delayed for some reason. I'll pause and then I'll answer it. Yeah, start 8. That's one of those where it's my one big move to just throw the kitchen sink and end up with hopefully what is an elite player. Because if I miss, probably most of those pieces are pieces I'm trying to color up from anyway, that I know I'm taking a shot at one of the best 2 players in the draft. So I'm okay doing that. In the start 8. Start getting deeper, I'm going to hold on to those future picks and extra assets more. But start 8, 1 QB all day.
All right, when you think about the 111, if there's one important thing for our listeners to take away from this show, go for it. Scott?
Well, so it's the spot in the draft where no one really knows what they're getting. But as long as you just kind of trust the process that you're going to get a good profile, you can make selective bets in this range. This is a range where you could get burned, and it's a range where you can go, wow, I'm glad I kept all of these picks, because everyone goes in this range, gets good landing spots, decent draft capital, and now we're just flush with a bunch of options, and you're going to want to be at the high end of that tier. Could be the opposite. It's the very beginning of a tier nobody cares about, and you're stuck making all these picks, and you're going, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson, Rashad White, Damian Pierce, whoever it was from last year. I'm just throwing out names from last year that people probably considered to be uninspiring when they were picking them on the clock. Maybe not Sky Moore. But anyway, the idea is don't just bail in this range, but understand that if you're bailing, it has to be in selective spots. It's not just, hey, give me something because I'm scared to pick. We talked about this earlier. Don't look back at all the busts and go, well, I know because people I trust are telling me that Jordan Addison's not that good, or Quentin Johnston's not that good, or Zay Flowers, he doesn't have that great of a profile. I'm scared. Don't play scared. Embrace the fact you're going to get a first-round receiver or probably the pick of some running backs that get decent draft capital for today's Dynasty game. So don't sell out all these picks. But obviously, if you have, I'll speak to the portfolio players, especially here. If you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 leagues and you have multiple picks in this range, shop 1 or 2. Shop and see what the best you can get for these picks. You may get nothing in any leagues. Now you're back to the drawing board. What if one league, though, goes, you know what? I love these receivers. Everyone's undervaluing them. I listened to this podcast. I don't even know what show it would be, but they love this receiver class, or they're telling me these running backs are great. So sure, I'll sell you that Brandon Ayuk in the 211 for one of these picks. great. Like you take that trade in that league. So be flexible. You don't have the ability to command anything in this range. So you just have to be flexible. You got to stay pretty loose league to league.
It feels like a free chip because I don't really expect much to come of the 111. If it does, awesome. It's one of those, I think George Pickens was probably in this range too, where if they hit, you can kind of move off of them early if you're not particularly invested in the player, which you're probably not going to be, right? A player at 111, you're generally not like, oh, I can't believe I got my guy at 111. Like, relatively speaking, I'm sure you're probably psyched if you've got player X when you didn't think player X was going to be there, but it's still not like, oh, this is going to change my roster. This is going to change my team. So it's like I said, it's kind of like a free chip, and it's one of those deals. If they hit a little bit, like I do with second rounders, all right, can I cash this in now? You know, can I combine this with something and upgrade? I'm using multiple picks to try to get multiple players from people like a Calvin Ridley and Deebo Samuel for like a 109, 111, something like that, where in and of itself, if you look at that, you're like, wait a minute, Deebo for the 109 doesn't seem fair, but Ridley for the 111, you might be overpaying by like a pick, but it all evens out in the end, or, you know, you might come slightly ahead. So treat it like a free chip.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't normally talk or give my opinion because it's probably best that way. But I think I'm going to go for just the names that have the sex appeal that can become live assets that I can then flip. And I think I'm going to look really hard this season at my leagues and just look back at, you know, who was picked in what spots and think about the league economy and what players I can flip or what players might be attractive for people to come up when I'm on the clock. So, guys, tonight we talked about the 111 in the first round as a whole. We've done shows on the 101 through the 110. There's a playlist that's about to pop over top of Shane's face. Click on that playlist, do some binging, and we will see you next time.